Hey, everybody, it's Tony George along with my good buddy Griffin Murphy. I call him Griff for short. Griffin, Gruff, and Griff. Big day for you today on Friday as we do the Hoops Happy Hour show. You got a big, got a game of the year thing going on today here on Friday. Get over to Docs, take advantage of that free $60. Everybody get it for free. Now, Griff, I'm on the executive privilege system, which means I know what the pick is. And of course, I
Mhm.
I dropped a little cash on it myself, and
I'm big.
we're either gonna celebrate or we're gonna drown our sorrows a little bit down at the Circa Mega Bar Resort and Casino here on Friday. A little TGIF early happy hour for the game. Are you excited?
Dude, I'm jacked up. I had this place circled 2 days ago, and when these lines came out this morning, I couldn't believe it. I was dumbfounded. I immediately tacked. I think the market underpriced the hell out of this game, so I'm jacked up. Can't wait for this game to tip off.
A lot of controversy on your 6 unit play yesterday in the
hmm
gambling world with the UAB and Temple game. I got a text from Griff. I had it circled. I got a text from Griff yesterday morning about 6 a.m. because we're early birds. Early birds got to get up early and get the worm here. We got to have our picks up at 8:30 Pacific. So we're both up at 4 a.m. in the morning. And you said, hey, man, what do you think about that UAB line? I said, man, that should be 6 or 7. Something stinks, which
hmm
scares the living piss out of me. But Griff yanked the trigger. They go all the way up to 8. Some books took them off the board. And this morning, there's rumors of a little bit of funny business going on with the Temple Owl team up there in North Philly. And it's not the
Yep.
second time this year they've raised eyebrows on that, Griff. I sometimes when it's too good to be true, is like I always tell you, it's too good. It looks too good to be true. You just go against your better judgment and take the crazy line, and 9 times out
Yep.
of 10 you win the damn thing. And then UAB turns around and throws 100 up on them.
They drilled them yesterday, man. That line looked too good to be true. You're right. It was just one of those games where that number was just off and felt good. I did give you a text in the morning, and then we pulled through. Nice trigger on that one. Prevail.
Haven't lost a college basketball card in 5 days myself. Haven't lost since last Saturday. Kicking ass and taking names, 7 unit in the books. Boom, yesterday on Ryder on the money line.
Yep.
Got another small conference hidden gem for you today. That game goes off in about a half hour. So on a 4-pack, looking forward to that. And of course, March Madness well underway. A lot of these mid-major and small conference tournaments going on. Some really good ones to look forward to.
Yeah.
For those of you that follow Griff and I, starting next week, we'll be doing a twice-a-week podcast on
Mhm.
StreamYard on the Vegas beat. We're going to be talking about games day of and reactions from night before. And those will be raw, candid, and unfiltered reactions. And then we're going to bring in a little bit of the Vegas lifestyle, what we're doing out here, what's going on, a little bit more personable, talk about the sports betting world in general. That'll be going next week. And you can find that on my Twitter at TGeorgeSports, Facebook, type in Tony George Sports, and of course, Griff at is it G Murphy? G Murphy wins.
G
G
Murphy
Murphy
wins.
wins over on Twitter, and of course, you got the Instagram as well.
Yep. Yep.
For
That one's G
for the
baby. Yep.
yeah for the younger cats.
That's
Us
right.
old school guys, we grew up with only 3 channels. You had to get your fat ass up off the couch just to change a channel. Of course, when I was a kid, my dad told me to get up and change a channel. He didn't move his fat ass. He just lay there eating potato chips and popcorn and ice cream saying, turn that to NBC. I want to see Tom Brokaw.
Hey, some of
So
those
there
things
you
never change, Tony. I still get this. I still got the same thing growing up as well. Same shit.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we got a show here for you. And of course, we'll be doing the Hoops Happy Hour show, and then we'll do something right here on YouTube on the Docs channel. Our producer and director and fearless leader, Jeremy, we'll rig something up for the summer months as well for you. We got NBA playoffs. We got Major League Baseball. We got WNBA. What do you think, before we get to these games, what do you think? Are you going to do anything in that UFL, that spring football league yet? I'm debating.
I've never tapped into it, so as far as I'm concerned, definitely not this season. I won't be, but probably going down the lines as it grows a little bit more, yeah, I'll probably start attacking it. But right now, no, I have not dialed into anything just yet.
I think I'm going to dial into that.
Okay.
I think I'm going to dial into that. So we'll see how. Let me be the guinea pig. Let me take the abuse. Let
There you
me
go.
take the hits. And then when I figure it all out, you can pick my brain one night after you buy me 15 or 20 cocktails and we Uber home, and then you'll be competing against me.
We'll get you your Jimmy. Don't you worry, Tony. We'll get it done. Absolutely.
All right, man. All right, man. Hey, we got some big games on deck this weekend. I talked about these on the Odds Breakers podcast, so it might be redundant if some of you watch that, but these are the games that Griff and I want to talk about. You want the best, you want the biggest, you want the brightest. We bring it to you every Friday on the Happy Hour show. Leftover Wingstop.
There you go.
Well, my daughter talked me into Wingstop last night over at Santa Fe. Got the best damn ranch dressing of any wing joint on the planet, by the way.
Not even close. Their ranch blows everybody out the water, Tony. I'm on 100% agreement there.
There you go. And, Raising Cane's, I saw the line there the other day. It was like 2 city blocks long. Raising Cane's, the chicken fingers, by the way, I'm just kind of bitching about it. How do you have a chicken finger joint and no ranch? What's wrong
They got
with
the
you
honey
people?
mustard, though. Little honey mustard, how you doing?
I don't like honey mustard.
Oh.
I like me ranch. But anyway, that being said, let's get to what everybody tuned in for. We got the personals out of the way. Kansas on the road at Houston, Griffin. I was talking to a guy about this game yesterday a little bit. And really, Houston, Ken Palm's got them around a 10-point favorite. I think they open up 6 to 8 points. I haven't seen the early lines yet. Game 1 of this was back on the 3rd of February, and Kansas put on a clinic at Fog Allen against Houston. Houston was favored in that game. Bill Self and Kansas were an underdog, and they pulled out a can of whoop butt, took them behind the woodshed, and really did some things to Houston offensively with Houston's vaunted number 1 defense in the country, obviously, 57 points per game allowed, that no one had thought about doing, and that was Bill Self's doing it. He's got the horses do it. But you got to ask yourself a question, Griff, this Saturday. What really is Kansas's motivation? This game is meaningless to them. They're not going to win the regular season title, something they've done like 15 out of the last 17 years, but they're not going to do it this year. This is not Bill Self's best team.
Right.
McCullers is still playing injured. Do you even play him in this game? Do you wait for the Big 12 tournament? And do you rest your team up for March Madness? Because whether he wins this game, and I think even if he wins the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City next week, I'm not sure it moves Kansas up in any seeding brackets one way or the other. And, of course, Houston's going to win the Big 12 title, and they're going for a number 1 seed. It's senior day. They got, 3-4 seniors on this team. They're going to be packed house. They're playing with revenge. And, Griff, on the other side of the coin, Kansas sucks on the road. You lost to Baylor last week, who's not as good as Houston.
Yep.
82-74. Kansas went on the road at Texas Tech and got pummeled by 29. Go down the list. They had an overtime loss to K-State, respectable. Kansas State upset. That was an overtime loss. Iowa State, as you know, being an Iowa State alum, till they kicked you out of the dorms after your freshman year. But losing to Hilton Coliseum by 4 is you don't have to walk away in shame. That's one of the toughest places to play, but they didn't win the game. And then the inexcusable loss at West Virginia. Kansas does not. Hey, as I stated the other day, Bob Huggins has left the station. West Virginia sucks now, and you lose to them.
Yes.
And they also lost to Central Florida. Matter of fact, the only 2 road games Kansas has won this year in conference is Okie State and Oklahoma. Okie State sucks, and Oklahoma, you never know what. They're a veritable mixed bag of potpourri here. I can only lay it with Houston here.
Yeah, I hear you completely, Tony. The biggest thing for this Kansas team has been their debacle on the road. They cannot win games on the road all season long. And you kind of have to expect as a team, these players go into this game knowing, all right, well, we've been brutal on the road all season long. Now we have to go against Houston, who's, what are they, 16-0 at home this season?
Yeah.
How do you come in on the right mind? Senior night, playing a redemption game on Houston's behalf. They're playing for everything. Kansas is playing for absolutely nothing here tonight. The biggest thing for me going into this game is Houston's rock solid 16-0 record at home. And then you look at Cryer, Sheed, Sharp. These guys are all averaging 12 points a game at least on the offensive side. This is something extremely overpowering for me because this team doesn't just play one-man team. They're not like your Purdue where they just swing it to the big man and he puts it in. This team moves the ball real well. They fill. They're all over the boards at all time. I just don't see how Kansas is going to come into this game, Tony, and do anything, put any work on this team. They're 6-4 in their last 10 games. They're not playing good basketball by any means. And you have to play, in my eyes, this is the best defense in all of basketball. I mean, they're rated number 1, and they play like it game in, game out. So, Tony, they've won 8 games in a row, has Houston. Senior night, redemption game. They have everything folding for them in this matchup. Kansas has nothing going for them. And on top of that, they have no confidence coming into this game. They know they played like crap on the road all season long. Now you got to play the best team in the nation on the road. How are you going to do that? I think this is a game where Kansas kind of saddles up a little bit and gets ready for the tournament. I just don't think this is going to be Kansas's game by any means. I'm laying the points here with Houston, Tony.
The reason a lot of these teams and Kansas has over the years to get number 1 seeds, folks, is the fact that they can win on the road. That they have 4 or 5 losses the entire season. Usually one of those falls is some big, huge, like a Maui Classic where you got Duke and Kentucky and Kansas and Michigan State and, you know, the UConn and these, you know, somebody loses early, you know, with some learning experience for their team. The coaches don't mind the loss, you know. But Kansas this year, it's concerning if you're going to back them in the NCAA tournament, how they're going to do away from home, Griff. I mean, they might get past round 1 playing, you know, a Drexel or someone like that. Of course, Drexel can put up points on anybody, so they might not cover a double-digit number. But you got to be concerned even out of the gate with Kansas, you know, on a neutral site, you know, against – there's a lot of parity in college basketball, Griff. I mean, you go up against an Indiana State, you know, one of the, you know, a Drake, you know, South Florida, one of the, you know, and you're not adept at winning on the road. You're not used to winning on the road. You don't have that confidence that most Jayhawk teams do. You got to be concerned about Kansas moving forward when you get in this big dance, Griff.
Yeah, Tony, I couldn't agree more, especially considering the fact I always like to look at how these teams do play on the road, especially when you're getting into the tournament and you're playing at a neutral site, because it is valuable. That is something to look at. And Kansas just hasn't done it. This is not the same Jayhawk team that we have watched season in, season out. They are, truthfully, in my eyes, they are not one of these top-ranked teams. They're just not playing good anymore. So, Tony, I have no issue here laying the points with Houston. But if that number does come up to a double-digit number, it's a game that I'm going to be a fan for and just sit on the sidelines with it.
Yeah, if it's under 10, I'll lay it. I'd lay it. Kentucky, Tennessee. Big game down here now. You know, I've always been a Rick Barnes fader in big games. I've said all along he's one of the worst big game coaches in the country. I've been fading him since he was at Texas. Well, this year he has so much sheer talent on that team that in spite of any bad coaching calls, they're still going to win. They have went through a murderer's row the last 3 games. Auburn, Bama, South Carolina, and they pretty much dominated all those games. And some of those were on the road. They're on a 6-1 spread run.
Mhm.
This was a 103-92 shootout back on the 3rd of February. And of course, Kentucky, couple of seniors on the team, not a bunch of one and dones. They probably got 5 NBA players on their roster, as usual. They're tied for second in the SEC at 12-5. Now, with the win the other night, Griff, over South Carolina, Tennessee secured the regular season title and a number 1 seed in the SEC tournament and probably a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament, no matter what happens in this game or next week. You wonder about the motivation in this game, and can they, for a 4th straight game in a row, take on a ranked team, a behemoth, and put it to them. They're probably going to be, I'd say, anywhere from 6 to 8 point favorites in this game.
Yep.
And Kentucky here, they're hit and miss. They're just hit and miss a lot. I don't know. I don't quite have my, after 27 games, I still can't put my thumb quite on Kentucky from time to time. Your thoughts on this one? Tennessee at home on Senior Day.
Well, I like that Kentucky is coming to this game on a 4-game winning streak. I always pay attention to that. The motivation factors, how well are they trending? And clearly they are trending to the upside. They are playing real good basketball, better than per usual, I will say. But if they do lose this game, they don't get that bye into the tournament. There's a very big possibility. So they will be playing, I want to say, on Thursday. So there's definitely a motivation factor for Kentucky in this matchup. Tennessee, on the other hand, well, they're probably going to get that number 1 rank. And on top of that, 14-1 at home, which is something that I always love to pay attention to. How are these teams performing at home? Because home court dominance is home court dominance. With Kentucky rolling into this game, they have a very, very stout offense. But the problem is their defense. These two teams are kind of divergent. Tennessee, on the other hand, they're a stack low defense. And they just finished up piling up on Texas A&M, Bama, and Auburn, and then rolling over South Carolina. So there's a lot of momentum rolling in for this game. But to come in and beat Tennessee at home, I'm not quite so sure. But on the other hand, if this point spread is between 6 and 8 points, I love Kentucky here because they're playing for something. On the other hand, Tennessee, not necessarily so much. 9-1 in their last 10 games are Tennessee. They've won 7 games in a row. So they are rolling right now. But again, this is another game where it's like, what are we really playing for here? While Kentucky, on the other hand, they have all the reasons in the world to go balls deep in this game, Tony.
One thing I did the Odds Breakers podcast yesterday with, Kiev, a mutual friend of ours.
Yeah.
And one of your Phoenix buddies. And we were talking about the importance of Senior Day, Senior night. And I think some of that's figured into the line. You've got a situation here on Friday with San Diego State with 4 seniors and a huge game against Boise State, a massive game in that game. You had one last night with Washington State, Washington, and I told him I liked Washington in that game plus the points, and he argued with me, telling me how important it was on Senior night. Well, how'd that work out? Well, Washington State got beat straight up. And here's the deal. And I think a lot of the reason is when you have, especially in very meaningful games, I think Senior Day is more of a distraction than it is an advantage.
Yeah.
You have other things going on, parents in town, friends, grandparents. These kids are 19, 20, 21 years old. They're human. They're no different than me or you off the court. They're college kids.
Right.
I was a college kid. You're a college kid. You still act like a college kid. But, hey, dude, I've been out with you. I know. Every time I go out with you, every time I go out with Griff, I think I'm on spring break down in Fort Lauderdale. It's ridiculous. But at the end of the day here, I don't put a ton of stock into its Senior Day, Griff, and I think it's more of a hindrance than anything. And also when teams like Washington State last night was a game behind Arizona, and you knew Arizona was going to smack UCLA all over the place, which they did. So they needed that win to stay within one, and they both got a game, on Saturday as well to finish out the regular season. When you have a lot of onus on you and pressure in a big game, then you have a senior day type thing with all the distractions. Sometimes it doesn't help you a whole lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tony, I'm gonna 100%. So I'm gonna use an actual personal life experience on this. So my older brother actually played Division I baseball up in Tennessee. So they had senior night. I went out there for their senior night, and I'll tell you this: a lot of the majority of the seniors did get drunk before the game, like the night before the game. A lot of these kids didn't care, and a lot of players that never even see the field they're on the field playing. So you look at this in a spectrum like that, and it's like, okay, well, how much do these kids really care? It's more so they have all their families, they're going out to dinner after the game on Friday night. Say they play Saturday for senior day, whatever the case may be. A lot of these kids come into this and it's more of a vacation for them, let alone them actually getting ready for quote unquote game day. It's a very different energy, I guess you could say. The kids are not as well intact, involved from my experience at least. So when I look at senior night, yeah, it depends if they're playing for something. But if they're not necessarily playing for anything, it's kind of one of those whatever type of games, Tony. That's how I look at it. I don't pay attention to that, and that's definitely not a confluence stacker that I'm putting in when I'm making my plays, making my picks. I don't look at it and say, oh, it's senior night. We should expect a tougher fought game from these kids. No, absolutely not. My brother's team, they were smashed on Friday night, and their game was Saturday morning. So I know how this works.
Yeah,
so that's where I'm at with it, Tony.
And here's one where senior's going to take this game's just got everything going on the line, and that's Duke, North Carolina tomorrow. I mean, both these teams sit at 24-6. The ACC title's on the line, the number one seed in the ACC tournament's online, probably a number one seed in the NCAA tournament. Although I think North Carolina is the better team out of these two. They played back on the 3rd of February as well. In a 93-84 game, scored 177 points where the total was 152. And speaking, I just want to go back. The best bet in that Kentucky-Tennessee game is going to be the over, if it's manageable. Just FYI, folks. They had 195 points first time. So it's going to be in the 160s somewhere, high 160s, I'm assuming. But this game here, too, might be something. I was thinking about this game. I think Duke's going to be around a 2.5 point favorite there at Cameron Indoor. This is the number 8, number 7 power rated team by KenPom. They're even Steven, although I think North Carolina's got a little better squad, Griff. And you would automatically think if that total comes out in the mid 150, it was 152, so they're going to make an adjustment in this game. I don't know how big of adjustment they're going to make, because if you take a look at the over and under trends for these two teams, North Carolina's had 4 straight unders, and Duke's went under 8 out of their last 9 games. Although this tends to get in to be a track meet and a shootout every year, Duke laying 2.5. If Duke's laying 4 or more, I'd definitely take North Carolina. And if you do want to take Duke and they're 2.5 or less, I would only money line them, because this can come right down the wire, Griff.
Yeah, Tony, I'm on the same page as you right there. I mean, explanation as far as if it is a -2.5 line, I'm making this a pick'em game, and I'm taking Duke on the money line straight up. For the reason being, you go against Duke at home. Their fans are the most annoying fans ever. But if you're riding with Duke, you love them. Every single shot, you're like, all right, let's keep it going. But at the same time, their fans will get into this game more than any crowd in the entire nation. I mean, there's a couple other teams you could eye out. Iowa State is another crazy place to play. There's a bunch of different spots. But I will say Duke, their fans are a nightmare. Duke, on the other hand, they're 3-0 in their last 3 games, 3-0 against the spread. They're playing really good basketball right now. They've won their last 3 games by double digits. And I don't want to get metricy here, but in their last game against NC State, I want to break this down. They had 32 boards. They scored 40 points in the paint. And on second chances, they scored 23 points. The reason I'm doing this is because North Carolina is 5th in the nation when it comes to rebounds. So if Duke does not come in and hit their shots, you best believe that North Carolina is going to come in and clean up that ball. They have now won 5 consecutive games. They have huge men in the paint. Armando, one guy that I have keyed out in mind, he's averaging 10 boards a game right now. You've got Ingram in the paint, and then you have Davis who pulls up with that perimeter shot. He's averaging 20 points a game. So North Carolina, in my eyes, depending on where this line comes out, if it comes in anywhere from 4, 4.5, even 5, North Carolina all day. But when you look at Duke, if you can turn this into a pick'em game, how do you go against Mac Brown, especially at home in a game this important? I just can't do it, Tony. So this game is going to come down to the point spread for me. But all crap aside, I'm going to be a fan in this game. I am not going to be putting any wagers out on this game. I am not going to be betting this game. This is probably my most exciting game of the entire weekend, let alone the entire week. This is a huge game. I'm jacked up for it. I love Duke in this game if we can get them on a pick 'em. If it's anything over 4, Tony, I'm with you. I'm taking the points with North Carolina.
This game and the Tennessee-Kentucky game are going to be in-game wagering opportunities for me. I want to see how it shakes out in the first half. Go from there. I might, whatever I bet in Vegas, I'll put out on Twitter tomorrow at TGeorgeSports, so you'll know what I'm betting in game. I agree. Here's a coin flip ball game. We haven't seen the lines yet, but you did bring up one point and something I want to point out to all you young whippersnappers out there watching the show today. Rebounding wins championships. Rebounding wins big games. Not points, not defense. They're all important. Not a star player having 35 points. Rebounding. You take a look, especially when you get in the NCAA tournament. Take a look at teams like Florida Atlantic, Fairleigh Dickinson, San Diego State last year. Look at the box scores in those games they won, how they advanced in through that tournament. They out-rebounded the other team, and usually badly. Disallowing second chance points and rebounding gives you opportunities in tight ball games and a distinct advantage of winning those games. You got to look at those rebounding stats big time and match them up against each other, because the team that hits the boards harder than the other team, especially late in the season between two good basketball teams, and after the first round of the NCAA tournament, after the first round of the NIT tournament, after the first couple of rounds of these conference Power 5 tournaments next week, you want to be looking at those teams that can hit the boards, Griff. It's hugely important.
Yeah, I'm with you, Tony. I mean, it's all been said there. Nothing much more for me to touch up on with this one. I want to be a fan for this. I think this is going to be a great game to watch.
Yeah, I still think it's going to be a shootout. I'm curious to see the total in this one here. Let's switch gears very quickly. Be sure and get over to DocSports.com. Get a free $60. You're watching this for free stuff. We're giving you a free $60. There's the link right up there. Okay. Also, in the upper left-hand tab corner of the website, you could click on that, free. You could sign up on your smartphone. And I've got, because I do a lot of radio stuff, text the word Tony to 29022. If you don't want to open up a laptop, if you're like my daughter, live your entire life as a 25-year-old on your phone, or even my wife, by the way. Excuse me, we have breaking news. The Auburn, Nebraska Bulldogs, my high school alma mater, just won in the semifinals of the state championship in the state of Nebraska, and they have advanced. There we go. Go Bulldogs, baby. Go Dogs.
Shout out.
I'm giving a town of 3,500 people a shout out right now in the middle of Bumscrew, Nebraska. But nonetheless, get over to Docs. That's a no strings attached. It comes with a profit guarantee. Put it towards a daily package. Griff's got a game of the year. Get it for free. Okay,
Ready to roll.
or put it towards a month-long package. You get the entire March Madness month for $60 off. Come on, get on it. Let's switch gears quickly to the NBA. We're going to talk about Saturday's game between Boston and Phoenix.
Yep.
I was a little surprised to see Boston lose at Denver last night.
Agreed.
I wasn't shocked. I mean, Denver's the best team in the West, and they're the best team in the East, and that was a pretty much NBA Finals 2024 preview, Griff, last night. And I was a little disappointed in the way Boston played. I put them out as a free play on video, which you can find our videos right here on this YouTube channel. And if you're watching this on Twitter or somewhere, or wherever, just go ahead and search, Doc Sports, and get all the free plays from all the handicappers, including Griff Murphy over there. And Phoenix last night took care of business against Toronto, and Beal had 20 points and 8 assists, kind of a pedestrian night. I think maybe Beal may have to have more than a pedestrian day against a Boston team on Saturday that's lost back-to-back games, including blowing a 22-point lead to Cleveland before they went to Denver and played. So this is their third roadie. Now they have a night off after playing in the altitude, which helps. And I know Griff follows the Suns closely, as you lived down there quite a while, but without Booker playing the East best team, I'm curious where this line's going to come out. And I'm curious, Phoenix has kind of been up and down. You never know what you're going to get with them, Griff. Your thoughts on this one?
I mean, Tony, you said it first. You never know what you're going to get with this Phoenix Suns team. Sometimes they'll come out just like they did to Denver and they rolled over them. And sometimes they'll lose to a crappy team. You never know what to expect with these guys. What you can expect from Boston is they're going to come out and play in this game, especially after losing to Denver last night. This is a team that, well, let's just say it first. First of all, Denver is their nemesis when it comes to Boston. They cannot beat this team. They always have issues with them. Tatum and himself, he can't necessarily win that big game that he needs. Even I was listening to SportsCenter again this morning. They were saying the same crap about him over and over again. That was detrimental for his mojo, his mentality, because that would have been a huge, you could put him on another level of totem pole. Like, hey, now this guy just came in and beat up Denver, been on a tear. They won 11 games in a row. So you can expect a huge bounce back game. I mean, you got Tatum. Brown had a night last night. Tatum, I think, had 15 points. Brown, I want to say, dropped 30. Porzingis, he's going to be in the paint doing his thing. You got Horford from the perimeter. Big men across the boards. With Phoenix having Booker out, it's detrimental. That is a very heavily impact negatively for this team. So for the Suns to come in this game and let alone cover, I'm not necessarily sure. I'm waiting for that point spread to drop, but I think Boston comes out and really hunkers down in this game, Tony. Especially coming off 2 losses in a row. You lost to Cleveland by 1 point, which snapped your 11-game losing streak. Then you come into Denver. Yes, you're dealing with altitude. I love how you pointed that out. They didn't really start to pick up their gameplay till the second half. Now you get to come back and deal with the Phoenix Suns team who's been on and off all season long. I just can't take this team. I really can't. I can't wager them. I don't know if I have an emotional attachment to the team, but let alone they cannot convert when they need to convert, just like the Celtics can't beat Denver necessarily. So here, this is my play with Celtics. I'm in the Celtics with this one. I think they're going to steamroll them, not just beat them. I think this is a game where they come in full throttle and get back on their feet, especially Tatum. This is a statement game for him. He's got to get going again. That's where I'm going, Tony.
I've got my power rating. This is just neutral site at Boston -7. I've got them. I've got them number 1 in the NBA in my power ratings, and I've got Phoenix down at number 12. And team rankings and a couple other ones have them at 12 or 13. I've dropped Philadelphia way down. Philadelphia, by the way, is without Maxey tonight, too.
Yeah.
They're without Maxey and Embiid against the Pelicans?
Yeah, and they're getting 7.5 at home.
Yikes.
Hmm.
Yeah, that might be you might want to be doing some player props in that one for Zion Williamson. I could
Okay.
just just
Like that.
just FYI, ladies and gentlemen. There's
Yeah.
more than one way to skin a cat in the NBA. Our props are kicking butt, taking names. Griff, I know you've been doing some props recently too. How you
Yeah. Yeah.
faring, my friend?
Been on a little bit of a tear right now, dude. I've won my last 5 NBA props as well as plays rated 6 units or higher 3 in a row. We're clean right now. I have another 7 unit that goes out tonight. Props have been hot right now, man. There's always a way to. I love where you went with that just now. You know, I had my hindsight set on that matchup. The game. Let's void it. Let's just go inside. Find a player prop. I like it. Zion might be a good piece in this game.
I've said this time and time again. It's easier. It's easier. This I was very disgruntled with the NBA last year. Disgruntled would be a polite way of me not being able to use swear words, including one that starts with an F, about my displeasure with the NBA and them being such an advocate of sports betting with Adam Silver, and all of a sudden their TNT Thursday night ratings when we started legalizing sports betting all over the country went from 400,000 views a night to over 1 million. Well, your
Mhm.
audience are sports bettors, and you're giving out these bullcrap injury reports. This load management stuff comes out of nowhere. You know, I had Wendell Carter the other night on a prop, and he didn't even play. And the team needed him. He just sat for no reason. Of course, the bet
Mhm.
was scratched. It do not play. You don't. The bet comes back to you, but it's like a push. But you know, at the end of the day, much better way to bet these games is using props. I
Yep.
mean, I think it's easier picking player props than it is the side or total about 90% of the time, Griff.
Yeah, Tony, I'm not going to disagree with you, but at certain aspects, I will. You really have to be deep in these things, and it's always you don't necessarily pick out those star players. You know, that's kind of where everybody's heads at. I've kind of been digging a lot deeper and kind of finding bench
Yeah.
players, guys that are coming off the bench and just kind of assists, rebounds, anything like that. That's where I've kind of found a much bigger niche. I will say, probably 2 years ago, I would say props were a lot harder for me. They really were. But as I've gotten deeper and started, okay, we're gonna wash that away. We're gonna dive in here. There's a lot more avenues to go. Again, going back to you scoping out that Zion pick. I loved where you went with it. It was just something that off the grid, off the charts. There's nothing here. Let's go deeper. So that's kind of what I'm finding with these star players. Nothing here. Let's go deeper inside. And that's where I've been finding a lot more success. I've been winning a lot of props, man.
I found also, and I'll give you a, we don't want to say that betting the NBA is a bad deal. It's
Sure.
just if there's a better way to build a mousetrap, I'm going to go that route too.
Hmm.
So one thing I found in these props, you got players like that step up, like when a Trae Young goes out,
Yep.
or a Booker goes out, or a star goes out, and you look at these bench players and you see odds makers not knowing where to put the numbers. And if you could track them a couple of games, and odds makers, these idiots at DraftKings and FanDuel for starters, which are corporate entities and not really sports books, they just answer to shareholders, which is why the consumer gets screwed with those organizations, in my opinion, looking at their lines and their limited options. But when you get these lesser known players that are filling in for roles and getting more minutes, and they don't adjust the lines enough, boom, drop the
Yep.
hammer, win yourself a bet.
I love it, man. I love it. That's exactly what I've been doing. Checking out how they're playing in their last 10. What are their minutes like? Are they going up or down, et cetera, et cetera. I love it, man. For sure.
I had somebody DM me the other day, why are you doing so well in the NBA this year when you sucked hind tit last year, Tony? Well, I'll tell you why. I dropped the volume down to 2 or 3 picks a week when I know who's playing, and I hit a lot of scheduling spots. I wait for them. Last night was a perfect example. The Sacramento Kings, off a tough game against the Lakers the night before, play the
Okay.
Spurs, who have rested for 2 days, who they only beat by 3 or 4 about a week ago. They're at home. And then you have the Spurs catching 11.
Uh-huh.
And a Spurs team that in 2 of their last 4 games beat Oklahoma City and Indiana.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm taking the 11. Hell, they should have beat them. They lost by 2. They could have won the game.
I gave that one out on a free play, on a live.
Yeah, so
I like that play a lot.
Yeah, but you gave it out. Why? Because of the scheduling spot.
They
played the night before, tough game. Fox went for 44. He's got tired legs. He's sick of shooting the ball. And then you got the Spurs in there coming in there. Nobody gives them a snowball's chance in hell of doing nothing. You can't give an NBA team double digits that's rested against a team that played the night before and had to travel back home. Take the double digit dog every time. I'll guarantee you'll go 80% against the spread. Just FYI. I mean, folks, you're tuning in. They're tuning in for information, right, Griff?
Absolutely, Tony. I mean, you drilled that one. You drilled it. I'm not touching up on it.
Well, nobody can say it as eloquently as I can. Let's just be honest about the whole thing. It is happy hour for Griff Murphy and I today. We'll be down at the Circa Mega Bar today around 3:30. We'll be watching some games. So if you're in Vegas and you walk by us and don't offer us a free libation, we'll block you on the channel. Right, Griff?
Get Tony his Jim Beam and soda, his 7-Up and Jimmy B. He's ready to go.
All right,
tequila orange juice, baby.
There you go. Hey, folks, we appreciate you tuning in. Get over to DocSports.com for March Madness. There's going to be a bracketology type stuff, all kinds of free. You don't have to buy anything. The only thing that costs money is if you buy picks. There's so much information over there that's useful for you to help you make better decisions in a myriad of categories, including Major League Baseball futures that are out right now, all kinds of like betting technique stuff. Educate yourself, learn. Of course, when you go there, the 2 best looking guys over there are Griff Murphy and Tony George, so you automatically should buy picks from us. But I'm sure Spreitzer and Indian Cowboy and a couple others would differ with our opinions, but damn it, we're good looking dudes. I'll tell you what right now.
Amen, brother. Amen.
The old KG veteran and the young buck, Tony George, Griff Murphy, we thank you for tuning in, and we'll be back up sometime next week because Friday's going to be a little tricky with the quarterfinals and semifinals of all the games going on. And be sure and look for our Vegas Beat podcast on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at TGeorgeSports, him at G Murphy Wins over there on Twitter. And we'll be announcing when those podcasts are out as well as the Hoops Happy Hour every Friday. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Best of luck this weekend.